Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios.
Oh, James Gunn, I love you. No, but seriously, I really do. If you've been living under a rock for a while now, you might not know this, but James Gunn is rolling out an entire new DC universe. I mean, the Superman trailer got like 50 million views. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you know that. But what you might not know is that this new DC universe is going to have a completely different structure than the MCU. So here's why I think the James Gunn DC Universe is the perfect contrast to the MCU. But before we continue, remember to like and subscribe, as every subscription incentivizes me to make more content like this, and it helps me not be sad all the time. So yeah, Marvel started with Iron Man back in 2008, and from that point on, they decided to build out this entire cinematic universe. Phase 1, which all led to the first Avengers film, which blew people's minds. I actually remember going to the theater with my family and not really comprehending just how big of a deal this was. The previous year, we all packed up into a minivan and went to the theater to see the Captain America movie. And then all of a sudden, he's up there on the big screen with Iron Man and Thor and Hulk, all these heroes that I had seen movies for prior. And my tiny 10-year-old brain could not comprehend just how big of a deal that was. And then all of a sudden, it's 10 years later, and they release some of the best ensemble action films ever made. Infinity War and Endgame hold up, despite the color palette being gray.
Assemble.
The MCU's formula was always set up the next project within this project, which inevitably did start to become the detriment of the universe.
This shit sucks.
As the rose-colored lenses started to come off the general audience, we started to realize that all these films are just setting up the next project, and nothing feels like a complete story. The only time we ever felt a genuine ending to something was with Avengers Endgame. And then you immediately follow it up with Far From Home as this kind of epilogue. And then after that, you just start doing whatever the hell this was, I guess. The point is, the MCU had and still has a very strict formula, where everything has to lead up to this big event. Phase 4 and 5, as jumbled and messy as it is, was all meant to lead to these next Avengers movies. Now obviously there were some complications, but we don't need to talk about that. But there's one problem with this formula that not many people point out. The human brain cannot comprehend the end of the world.
What?
What is a common theme within all of these Marvel films? And honestly, superhero films in general. That's right, kids. The end of the world. So inevitably, Marvel just has to keep upping their stakes. They have to keep going further and further. How are they going to top Thanos? But at a certain point, this stuff just starts to wash over us. We don't feel anything because we can't comprehend what's actually happening. But here's where James Gunn and his DC universe comes into play. There is no Thanos. Nice. If you're a DC fan, you're automatically going to assume, okay, so they're all leading up to fighting Darkseid. But James Gunn has come out and said that's not the case. This universe is not leading to this big end of the world, unite the Justice League threat. Mr. Gunn over here has made it a very big point to let us know that every film within the DCU needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. Now don't get confused, this is a connected universe. Heroes all exist within this one playground, and people can cross over, there can be cameos and credit scenes, whatever it may be. But from what he's told us, no project will ever be made with the intention of setting up another project. And you might think to yourself, yes, that's the mentality you should have when it comes to a cinematic universe. But, you know, apparently it's not. We're getting Clayface and Sergeant Rock movies before we even touch Batman. But I'm going to focus in on the Clayface film for a second, because I had a revelation. This makes so much goddamn sense, it's absurd. If any of you are at all familiar with the film industry, you would know that one of the best return on investments is horror. You can make them for very cheap, and people love horror movies, so they always make money. This Clayface film, I'm pretty sure has a budget of $40 million, which is not that much. And it's been described as a very dark film with a lot of body horror. Again, this is such a fucking good idea. You barely even have to brand it as DC. Make it a surprise. Somebody walks into the theater, ooh, new horror movie, this is so fun, and then all of a sudden, DC logo. Like, what? That's so cool. They're looking at DC as more of this big sandbox, a world where they can create stories of any genre within it. That is such a cool way to go about building a cinematic universe. Eventually, we'll see a Justice League film, or maybe World's Finest, or a Trinity movie, whatever. We will see these heroes cross over, we'll see them in other projects, and we'll have those big bad moments like Darkseid and Brainiac. But the point of the universe isn't just to lead up to those moments. Those moments can happen while other things are also happening. My biggest problem right now with the MCU is that a lot of these heroes that deserve their own solo stories and don't really fit in with the giant Avengers narrative aren't getting those stories because they need to be a part of it. I want nothing more than a street-level Spider-Man film. That is all I want. I made a video about it right before this one. But we might not get that because apparently they need to tell this big Avengers story where Spider-Man's going to be probably the main focus. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that James Gunn's DC is going to be very refreshing. It's going to be so nice not having to do homework if you want to go see something. Now look, as somebody who's chronically online and loves comic books, I probably still will see every project just because it's DC and James Gunn is awesome. But when it comes to the general audience, that doesn't really happen. If you're just a regular schmuck on the street, you're not going to see every single thing they put out, especially since a lot of it might be HBO series or movies about characters that you don't give a shit about, like Plastic Man or Sergeant Rock, which, by the way, Sergeant Rock's probably going to do really well too because that's just going to be branded as like a war movie with probably like a Nazi killing robot, and then it's directed by someone who's made a lot of really good films, so that's probably going to do really well. Again, same thing as Clayface. It's just like in DC, but people will go see it because it's not directly a superhero project. But nonetheless, not everyone would see it. Being able to go see a Justice League movie without having to watch 10 other movies leading up to it is the ideal. Also, by the way, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're already completely familiar with this approach because that's what James Gunn has attributed it to. Everything now that DC produces outside of the main comic book storylines is going to be connected to this universe outside of a few Elseworld projects that they're going to be branding differently. TV shows, movies, and video games will all be within the confines of this universe. So if they make a Superman video game, it's gonna be David Corenswet playing that Superman. Everything will be canon. And that kind of makes this version of DC this like living, breathing organism that can just grow forever. Take Batman, for example. There's a giant Bat family of characters that we rarely get to see in any live action media. Not even just live action. The Arkham games included the Bat family very briefly, but they never really utilized them to their full extent. We haven't had a Robin in a movie since 1997, and that's because they don't really have time to do these characters, unless they want to dedicate the entire plot to it. But again, within the confines of this DC universe, we can have Batman and Robin movies, we can have solo Batman movies if they want to do it, and then meanwhile, we can have a video game about Nightwing, we can have a TV show about Red Hood. There is so much opportunity to utilize them and flesh out these characters that are all connected within the same space. Like, god damn it, I am so excited. This is so cool. This is such a great approach. I'm so happy that DC is on the come up right now. I'm so happy that James Gunn is able to utilize these characters to their fullest potential, and I have so much faith in this Superman movie. There is not one single part of me that believes it's going to be bad. If Superman is bad and you don't hear from me for a while, call 911. Anyway, that's about it. Are you excited for James Gunn's new DC? Are you happy about this new approach to the cinematic universe trend? Comment below, let me know what you guys think. And also tell me what your most anticipated project is, because right now for me, it's the rumored Teen Titans movie. I didn't dive into that, but apparently the Supergirl writer is writing that, and it's been heavily rumored that the lineup is going to be from the cartoon, and I could not be happier. Anyway, again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more amazing content from yours truly. Okay, bye.